We're going to talk about how do we feel about the exotics that are getting left behind in year 2. Galahorn, for example, will not be upgradable past its year 1 damage level.
Major bummer for me.
The great
major
Galar
bummer
nerf of 2015.
Right? They've thought of Galahorn as a problem because everybody's married to one weapon, and they want you to try out other things. You know, they don't want you to be playing Destiny forever using only Galahorn.
I think though that they're looking at the problem a little wrong in that the Galahorn became a bit overpowered. I mean, Galahorn became way too powerful. I agree, but it was kind of Destiny's Excalibur. Like everyone wanted it, and that's all you did for it. And I agree that maybe too many people got married to it, but that's where your enemy types and your different damage types were supposed to be like, okay, well, Galahorn's not going to do anything to this creature, and that ended up not working out. So I don't know, like, what was the deal there?
Well, the way you address it, at least if I'm Bungie, the way you address one weapon being too powerful isn't by nerfing the weapon, but by bringing other weapons that are less powerful in line with it by making them better, right? Like, I understand the idea of not wanting to create a culture where you're tied to one weapon, because I agree. Like, I think 3 years from now, if you were still using the same weapons because they were that good, that would be kind of a boring game. But I don't think that necessarily applies to exotics, because exotics are the whole reason people chase weapons in the first place. And 2, the philosophy behind exotics is that they're supposed to be good and long-term and more powerful, right? So it applies even less to the very top tier, which is Galahorn. Like, I would love to see it still relevant and usable in year 2, although maybe it's not the tip-top tier anymore. Maybe there's another rocket launcher or machine gun that's as good, maybe not edging out a Galahorn even a little bit.
Here's why it really, really bothers me. It's because the boss encounters are all bullet sponge boss encounters. Do a ton of damage. Now, if you changed your boss design philosophy, you could make it so that bosses require precision damage in a specific spot to make them change forms, and then you have to use like a pulse rifle or a sniper rifle to hit a certain spot.
Well,
it's a problem with how they've been designing their bosses, not with Galahorn, really. It's stop making all your bosses something you shoot for 30 minutes.
Well, I think we saw evidence of that thinking of changing a boss design, especially in the House of Wolves. The strike in House of Wolves, where you are basically chasing the boss through the whole stage, is a good line of thinking of like, okay, we shouldn't just pitch you in a final encounter where it's just Damage Sponge City. Like that infamously frustrating
Valis.
Oh my goodness, Valis Tark. But I think that like that has to be the solution. I feel like the bullet sponge boss is not a fun climax anymore. Like it isn't. It's just after year 1 of Destiny, I think it is universally agreed that that is the wrong way to go, and that's why you're right. Galahorn became super precious to people because of that. The Skolas fight in Prison of Elders, or any of the bosses in Prison of Elders, were torn apart by Galahorn. 3-party Galahorn, fully leveled, you can get through those bosses and no problem. Became the issue. But I'm bummed that they nerfed it, because I do feel that
it's not even a nerf. They're just not letting you upgrade it anymore.
True. No,
I mean,
they are nerfing it, though. It's still powerful for all of year 1 content, but it's going to get replaced by another Galahorn-like item.
I guess I just want something. I want replacements. I want, my next Excalibur, the thing I'm chasing, that unicorn that I'll be chasing for a while. Don't get me wrong, it was a frustrating ride.
Yeah.
And the minute Xur sold it, like I told you, I was just, half awake looking at Twitter, saw the tweet that said, "Oh, selling Galahorn." The sheets flew off. I ran to the PlayStation, bought like 3.
Turn on faster.
Bought 3 Galahorns, and was just like, okay, now I'm ready. And
I am complete.
I am complete. But it's kind of a cheap ending for me, right? After a year of investment in the game,
you didn't get that rewarding moment where like it dropped during Atheon.
And I got Fatebringer, I got Hawkmoon, I got those moments. I never got it with Galahorn, and I think it was more of a loot issue than it ever was a, just have Xur go out and sell it issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean too? Like that's been a key problem in Destiny that has needed some addressing, is that loot. And we're going to talk about this, I guess, later when we talk a little bit about the favorite fixes.
Yeah.
I feel like that was the bummer. And that's the thing that has turned a lot of my friends away from Destiny, is that you go through a fun encounter, and even though you had a good time with your friends, loot is just there to remind you that you are but a small guardian, a tiny person in this universe, and that's a shame.
Sean?
I think it's a bummer that a lot of people worked really, really hard for it, got it, and now have no reason to use it.
Yeah.
Like, I think that...
You just got yours recently, right?
Yeah, I pulled mine from a Nightfall maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I've really... Oh, I did. Yeah, I tweeted it. I was super stoked on it, and it is very powerful, and I'm super glad that I had the ability to experience it pre-nerf or pre-year 2. But what I don't...
We got time, September 15th when the Take comes out.
Totally.
Sorry, I just wanted to remind
But I do think that it's kind of a bummer that, you know, knowing that can happen to even the best of weapons, like how am I not to think, okay, well, I'm going to chase weapons in year 2. I'm going to spend a lot of time getting them and working to level them up, but in the back of my head, there's this chance, like, well, when year 3 comes around, I may not be able to use this anymore. Like, do I even really want it all that much? Like, I think the top tier of weapons should always be relevant. Not the most relevant, not the top tier all the time, but if Gjallarhorn was the most powerful thing in year 1, and it undoubtedly is, it should be powerful into year 2 and year 3 and still be a relevant option. Yeah. Because you worked so hard for it. It's the coolest thing in the game.
No,
and now it's not because you can't use it. You know, that sucks.
But I do think that a game like this is always going to be evolving and changing, right? And then it becomes, at least for the player base, like the stories. Like, were you there for loot caves? Were you there when, you know, you can raid the chest multiple times?
Oh, yeah.
And the friggin' conga line of people just take it off on sparrows and coming back. And I feel like to some degree that's going to happen with the weapons. And I don't know if I'm okay 100% with it, but I guess I acknowledge that that's part of that history and that stuff that we get to talk about, you know, as people who play this game.
For me, like with the Prison of Elders weapons, like that encounter with Skolas is just incredibly frustrating. It's not even that fun, and you have to invest so much time. I'm just like, you know what? And the weapons aren't good.
Hard.
The weapons aren't that good.
Oh, the weapons are terrible.
Yeah, so it's just like, why do I want to do this encounter I don't really like or enjoy for weapons I don't really want? And then the bounties suck too. You have to wait like 2 days. That's another
fun
topic. I don't think so.
I thought Prison of Elders was fun.
I thought it was fun maybe the first time I did it. And then after that, I'm like, oh, great, I got to do Skolas. All of his burns are turned off.
But you had Skolas at his most frustrating, where I feel like when they did change that fight,
I'm getting hit through walls by his stupid thing.
Yeah,
you know?
They fixed Skolas. I would urge you, and if you're down to do it, I would even be down to play with it.
No, I ran Skolas 2 days ago. It sucked.
You still didn't like it?
Yeah, they have one-hit kills turned on right now.
Oh, well, that's just
light switch.
Yeah, they have light switch turned on, so
light
if you're
switch
running
is one
away,
of the harder ones to deal with.
Yeah,
you picked a bad week.
I mean, that's how it's supposed to be, though. Endgame content is supposed to be tough. Like I think the rewarding part of it is that it's tough. If it were easy,
there's
it wouldn't
no
be fun.
reward though in Prison of Elders, in my opinion.
Okay, it's like PvP. It's saying like
we're kind of going off on a tangent too. So
yeah, but I mean, like that's like saying, okay, well, PvP is really tough and there's no reward in just beating someone, right? But there is. I think
PvP is rewarding. You can do bounties.
Even if you get
drops.
Even if I don't get a drop.
Yeah.
If I slay someone so definitively that they know that I am a better player, there's reward in that for me particularly. So I enjoy the challenge, even if just for the challenge's sake. But I agree.
Yeah.
With endgame content, you should be rewarded, and it sucked that Prison of Elders didn't really get there.
Yeah. So anyway, to wrap up the thought that we were on about leaving exotics behind, Fran wanted me to make sure that I pointed out that he's actually really happy that the Gjallarhorn's being left behind, because it's going to give us a chance to experience new weapons and to stop worrying about one particular weapon. So he's kind of excited to see like what's going to replace Gjallarhorn, what you're going to be able to chase in year 2.
I mean, that is a valid point too. I give props to Fran, because
that was going to happen anyway.
Well, I know, but it was ridiculous to me that, like, I talked to some friends about, hey, let's run Prison of Elder Skolas, and like, you got a Gjallarhorn? It's like, no. Then I was like, then you probably shouldn't do it. And this was pre-fix, and I'm just like, this isn't how the game should be.
Yeah.
You know, and I adore those friends. Like, and I adore the honesty, but that's what it kind of turned into.
Yeah, it did.
You know?
Definitely.
So hopefully, I'm not saying leave Gjallarhorn behind, but find cool other weapons that will meet it.
The community in general on this topic, and this is the last thing we'll say about it, is that they've been very divisive. Half the people are really upset. They're like, oh, sure, Xur sells it, and then, of course, they take it away. And then the other half is just like, you took away my weapon. The other half of the community is like, I'm glad you took away the weapon, because now people shut up about Gjallarhorn. They can chase new things.
But I just bought it. No,
yeah, exactly.
I'm going to enjoy it till the 15th.
Yeah.
That's it.